Big story of today, and that is this morning Boris Johnson marking a new phase in the coronavirus response by setting out plans for an infrastructure revolution to create jobs and stimulate economic recovery, the PM said, aiming to emulate the New Deal policies of Roosevelt in the Depression era. The PM has said he wants a government that puts its arms around people at a time of crisis. Here's what he said this morning.
This is a programme for jobs, jobs, jobs. Because it's by building our infrastructure, building our schools, building our hospitals, building back better, bolder and greener, that we will get the jobs that this nation needs. And that's our strategy.
Well, as part of his announcement, £5 billion in capital investment to accelerate infrastructure projects this year, including hospital maintenance works, school buildings, and improvements to the road and rail networks. In a moment, we'll speak to the economist Jonathan Davis. But first, another economist, Julian Jessup. Afternoon to you, Julian. In fact, Jonathan is with us. Jonathan Davis. Good afternoon, Jonathan.
Hi, Ian.
Nice to have you with us again. Always good to talk. So this was rabble-rousing stuff from Boris Johnson, wasn't it? This was, we mentioned the Roosevelt thing that everybody is talking about at the moment, but it was also very Boris Johnson. He was enthused. He was drawing on our recent experiences as a country that is coming together, looking at how we've dealt with things, looking at the positivity that people have played in the health service industry, and trying to transpose all of that energy into an infrastructure bonanza. So his enthusiasm can't be questioned, but can his numbers?
I would add that this is Boris Johnson doing exactly what he was going to do, irrespective of whether or not there was a thing called lockdown. He had every intention of, just like that Pools winner, spending. There's no question it will create jobs. Of course, it will be a boost to the economy. And my goodness, we're going to need it, because this year the size of the economy is going to be something of the order of 10% smaller than last year. It's absolutely cataclysmic. And he and his team are to blame for that. But, that's perhaps another issue. Going forward, no, the numbers are not going to add up, because post-lockdown, post the initial surge in the economy that we're seeing right now, and we'll see post 4th of July, the economy will be at best extremely lackluster, because there's going to be another 2 or so million people unemployed. There's going to be tens or hundreds of thousands of businesses out of business. The economy, from a materially lower base, as I say, from where we are now, there'll be an upsurge, but it'll still be lower net this year compared to last year. The economy is going to grow very, very slowly with that much higher unemployment. And on top of that, I actually see inflation coming back into our system for the first time in 4 or 5 decades. And that also with stagnation, inflation. The economy is going to be dire for years, I'm afraid to say.
John, you are talking, Jonathan, like this could be not just a recession, but a depression.
It's the biggest recession, man-made, as far as I'm concerned, since the 1930s.
Well, when you just on that point, Jonathan, when you say man-made, because you mentioned this previously, what do you just give us an example of what you mean by that? Because many would say, well, this is one of the few recessions that isn't man-made because of what has happened with this global pandemic.
Yes, there are. I could reel off 5 or 10 countries off the top of my head who didn't have a lockdown. In Europe, you've got Switzerland and Sweden, and their economies did not crash like ours. Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, others, even Ethiopia, believe it or not. So, we didn't have to have a lockdown. All we had to do was manage what was going on. Anyway, that's by the by. We are where we are. As they say, it is what it is. I've got that on a plaque right in front of me. What should we be doing? what we should be doing is not borrowing even more money, which will therefore add to the national debt, which will detrimentally, it will push down the value of our currency, which will raise the cost of our imports. Hence, we will see inflation come back into the system. You watch a barrel of oil will be $100 within 2 or 3 years. It's currently under $40 a barrel. We know how inflationary oil is, and that's just one aspect of what we're going to see, on top of what the government will do by borrowing all this money. And of course, all these furlough schemes, 9.5 million people are being paid very large, basically unemployment benefits to do nothing. And unfortunately, 1 or 2 or 3 million of them will still be unemployed post-lockdown. That's what we're up against. They know it. I've known it for 2 or 3 months. They've known it for 2 or 3 months. They're pretending all is well. No, all is not well, I'm afraid to say. And then look at what's going to happen to house prices. If that isn't going to exacerbate things, I don't know what will.
Well, you're always brutally honest, Jonathan. Thank you. Jonathan Davis, economist and presenter of the Booms and Busts podcast as well. That's an